York state of mind is suburban urban. You know, we have recently done a lot of things for Mrs. Obama, and that has been a real pleasure. I have such respect for her taste level and for what she's done for this country, and I think it's what she's done for American designers too. So that's been a real joy. I think my ideal client is really someone who's independent, who loves to wear color, who kind of faces every day being dressed and ready to go, feels confident about herself, and kind of celebrates life. I mean, that's who our customer is. She's definitely someone who's on the go, doing something. She needs to look prepared for the day, but she doesn't want to look fussy and too overdone. And she needs to be able to go from day to evening and look fabulous. And that's the woman I really love to dress. It's a fun part of fashion for me, without it being too frivolous. I really do think that it's an expression of how you feel, and I love to get to be a part of that.
So I'd love to hear more about your first years in New York City, right after graduating from Parsons and your first years working in the garment district. Tell me a little bit about that.
The garment district was really different back then. I mean, I think that back then you didn't have people producing overseas the way that you do now. So the garment district would just be rolling racks, rolling down the street, and you'd have to run to get out of the way of them, or they'd run you over. And it was a very different city then. When I moved to New York, Giuliani was just coming into office, and there was kind of this crackdown in a lot of areas around the garment district. It was a very interesting time though, and the city was so different than it is today. But I still think that the things that I love about New York have been maintained, which is it attracts people that are kind of dreamers, that have a goal in life that they want to achieve, and they come here to do that. And I think that it really fosters a lot of creativity, and it's so inspiring to live here.
And you make all of your production is done in the garment district, and all of your books are made.
We do some knits overseas because there's really very few knit factories left. But for the most part, we do everything here in New York City.
And what do you think is in store for the future of the garment district? What do you think is changing about this neighborhood? What do you think is changing about the New York fashion world?
Well, I think, there was a time when all these technology companies were moving in. I think everyone started to really worry about the factories couldn't afford the prices anymore. And really things did start dispersing. But I think since that time, people have kind of rallied behind the garment district and started realizing how important it is that we do have a garment district here in New York. I mean, even for us in this office, if we're looking for a trim that we didn't necessarily order, we have to have stores that carry those trims. And if you don't have these factories around, and if you don't have these things around, then the whole area disperses. There's something really nice, and I think that people have really started to realize that having a community and having a district that's kind of set out, for the commerce that we do is vital to kind of making our lives easier. And I think people have really started to understand the importance of that and, pay attention to it.
What would you tell someone who's never been to a green market before, who wants to start buying local, wants to start eating fresh? How would you tell them to approach healthy eating?
Well, first of all, it's so much fun to go through the green market because you're just seeing these amazing tomatoes and different heirloom vegetables and vegetables that you've never seen before. You don't even know what they are, and you're thinking, wow, what is that? I mean, it's amazing when you see all the different varieties that are available to you, especially in New York. It's kind of interesting to see how many things are grown in New York, and I think that you get a real sense of what is seasonal and what can be grown locally. I mean, the one thing that I always hear from people is that how expensive the green market is, but to me, I think that you should realize it's going to cost more money when you shop at a green market, but you're also paying the real cost of food, as opposed to this, I think, kind of unreasonable price of foods that we see in fast food and a lot of grocery stores too. I mean, those foods they don't taste like what you're getting at the green market, for sure.
Well, we know about your tricycle.
Right.
Would you even call it a tricycle?
Yes, I always call it a bicycle, but my husband's like, you mean your tricycle? Yes, that was a custom built, I mean, it's a custom built tricycle that I had done when I had a smaller version of it when I just had one child, but then when I had my daughter Rosie, I had a larger version built, and of course I got a second dog. And it can truly haul furniture, it can haul anything that you want. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but so a lot of times I drop the kids off at school in the bike, and I have both dogs, and we stop by the green market, and carrots are flying out and radishes. And it is truly like having a car in New York City and never having to pay for parking tickets.
Amazing.
It is. And not stopping at traffic lights, although I should not admit that.
So what do you think of city bikes?
I adore it.
Good.
I am such a fan of city bikes. I think it is amazing, and I'm truly waiting for the total transformation of what I think it will do to New York City. I mean, when you are out there in the mornings, you see so many more people on bikes, and I think that the ridership has been high, and it's been very successful so far. I am so thrilled that we finally have this. I think it opens up people's mind to really, alternate forms of transportation and how great the city can be. I mean, for me, when I started commuting by bike, it was like unlocking, it was the key to living in New York City for me. I mean, all the stress that you have associated with either getting in cabs or being stuck in traffic or waiting on the subway and it breaks down, you have none of that when you just control your own destiny. And I think that that's what happens when you ride bikes everywhere.
Tell me a little bit more about your house in the Catskills, and when you do get to spend time there, what you like to do when you're up there.
Well, we go up a lot on the weekends, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful year round. It's great in the summer, it's great in the winter. It's an amazing place, and it's so, I think, for people that live in New York City, it's really nice to have kind of a getaway where you totally, our Wi-Fi is basically non-existent up there. We just go up there and we cook a lot, and we have a lot of, there's 64 acres on our property, so we can go run along the trail. We had foraged for ramps during the springtime. I mean, we have like raspberries right now. It's just very fun, and all the different things that you can do and just kind of live a non-New York City life. All these little towns are filled with the most amazing people who are very creative, very interesting, and just kind of live a totally different lifestyle than we do here in the city. And it's always fascinating. You find interesting shops, like we found this one guy who, he owns this place, Delaware Delicacies, and he catches eel in the Delaware River, and he smokes them. He has this whole smokehouse he built next to his property. It's in Hancock, New York. I mean, it's amazing. We of course now eat tons of smoked eel. It's a totally new thing, but I mean, it's amazing. There's a lot of things being produced here that are amazing, and the key to figuring it out is just figuring out how to find them all and, celebrating it. Don't stand. There. Okay, stop. Oh, no. No. For some reason, male Norwich Terriers do not like male humans.
They're very protective. It's okay. It's good to have a guard dog in the office.
Stop. Well, okay, you're gonna have to get down. All right, bye. All right, stop. Enough, Bobbin.
Bobbin, here.
Bobbin.